So I just imagine that if I had the video of me and the cat boy, like,
and we had it broadcasted in your office.
I'd never
Look
leave
at this cat guy.
I would never leave the house. So, but luckily we didn't have that.
Land ahoy, matey!
The archipelago awaits.
Yeah, so the one thing that's on my mind is, I actually mentioned this to Savannah, it was a couple days ago, and I said, you know what, I feel like I'm on the right track because I'm getting outside of my comfort zone more inside of this new role. It's like doing the speech at the gala, even just having I followed up on that business, they came in, and at the start of the meeting, I was like, why am I so nervous right now? I'm like, I've been through this, but it's like I'm kind of consistently putting myself outside of my comfort zone. So I feel like I'm on that right path. The question that I wanted to ask you though is, when do you feel like the last time you put yourself outside of your comfort zone?
Well, yeah, it's probably not as frequent as it should be, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it probably hasn't happened as much as it needs to. Right?
Yeah,
because you don't learn, like the comfort one. Sometimes you're stuck in, and I find that time sneaks by. Like you open and you close your eyes, and we're 11 months into the year now, and just about then you go, what the heck? What happened to the year, right? Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, the best intentions don't happen, but I think sometimes it's just we fall into routines more. So,
well, the other thing I was asking, because when I was thinking about asking you that question, I was gonna guess it was gonna be hard for you to remember. Yeah. The other thing that came to my mind is I wonder if it's also the different phases of life, right? Because I turn 30 next year, and I've been going through all this stuff that's just so new to me. Yeah. Where you've had these years and you've had the time under your belt. So I wonder if that plays a part of the comfort zone where you're in this area. And the other question that's going to my mind is is that also too, because I always, Rick Rubin has a concept, it's called the opposite is true. So I feel like the advice to get outside of your comfort zone could also be cliche, where it's well, what if you don't get outside of your comfort zone, right? It's a trade-off between both of them. Yeah. But when I think about sitting in that rocking chair and kind of looking back on life, some of the best stories that pop into my mind are those stories where you put yourself outside of your comfort zone.
I wish I had one every week. I think you have one. I think you have different experiences every week with different people. But when you step back for a sec, they're kind of in the same bowl of a behavioral set. So although they're unique in their own thing, they're really, the underlying theme is the same. So I don't find that you can say, well, I had this interesting conversation or this experience, but then when you look at it, you go, wow, it's the same behavior set, just showed itself differently. Obviously the book, I think, would have been a couple of years ago. The book was outside my comfort zone, just even the launch of the book and doing the book. And that was just something, an experience, right? I'm hoping that it's not that all of a sudden you just, okay, well, that's it. You're not really going to do something new or, because that, but I guess that's an interesting question. Why don't make it I know we were joking at the Christmas party, we should do a skit or something, just to do something crazy.
Yeah, because I was looking back. So I was thinking about moments where I put myself outside of my comfort zone that really stand out. And I can attribute a lot to the business, right? The speech, I brought up. But I was thinking back more personal, what are more personal moments? And there was this one time I was visiting my friend at the University of Calgary, and we were walking through campus, and there's basically this wooden stage. There's this open room, and there's this wooden stage, and it was Saturday night, and he says, okay, there was guys breakdancing there. And they're older guys. They were probably in their, say, 40s, and they were breakdancing, they were spinning on their heads, they were doing these crazy moves. And my buddy Luke was saying that he usually comes and kind of watches these guys breakdance, and eventually they get to be really big crowds, and then they're just having breakdance battles. So then I looked at him and I said, well, should we go breakdance? And then we kind of sat there, we looked at each other, and we were like, no, let's. And then we were like, well, okay, yeah, that would be kind of fun. And we kind of go back on this teeter-totter of no's and yeses. And then we kind of finally settle on screw it, let's just go ask them, right? Yeah. So then I walked up there and I said, hey, they kind of look at me pretty crazy because I don't think many people go up. And I'm nervous. Again, my heart, don't. Yeah. So then I say to these guys, hey, they all look at me. I say, what you guys do is really cool. I'm from Lethbridge and I'm just visiting for the weekend. I said, is there any chance that you could teach me one move so I could go back to Lethbridge and show my girlfriend this crazy breakdance move? And she'd be like, well, what the hell did you do this weekend?
Yeah, no doubt.
So then these guys they kind of looked at each other all weird, and then they got excited. They were like, yeah, okay, sure, we'll teach you a move. And then they were like, well, they were thinking about like these kind of, there was more standing up, but I was like, no, I want to do a backspin move.
You want to get right into it.
Yeah, exactly. So then he took us through like how to do, it's not my party trick now. I'm not very good at it, but it's like I can sit down and I can do a backspin and like a breakdance move. So when I'm looking back on that, I'm like, that put me outside of my comfort zone.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But looking back on it, like that was just such a fun memory.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, like me and Luke were all like giggly and having a good time just because it was so different.
I like to believe, like even like I said, well, I guess you could say like we were in Mexico and I said, let's go karaoke on the stage in front of everybody like that we don't know. Like, and I'm talking there could be 200, 300, 400, 500 people there on this massive stage. And so, but it's outside the comfort zone. You're nervous because yes, I suck at singing, but I know the words and I get up there. But it's kind of weird. But historically, I've done that historically. So in of itself, it's not new, but that experience right there is. So once in a while, we do some things like that. But they're not super crazy. Like they're still within a sort of a normalized range. So, you know, so I'm trying to think of something real crazy, but.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The one that kind of popped into my head was, I remember we were shooting pool.
Yeah, well, there's, yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead.
No, you, please, yeah.
Yeah, well, we were shooting pool. We went to the pool hall, and I'm pretty sure you saw some guys that you used to shoot pool with when you were growing up.
Yep.
So then I'm not good at shooting pool, so you're kind of teaching me the ropes on like what to look at, how to line up the ball, like thinking about bounce shots, things like that. And the guys that we were playing, like they seem to be pool sharks. Like they're shooting it around the table. We're pretty sure that they're just there to take guys' money and kind of clean up a little bit. So you basically needed to go and kind of clean up the rest of the table if we wanted to win, or else these guys were going to win. And then I think you mentioned that you were like, oh, that was weird. Like. Yeah. I don't know if you got nervous or your heart rate picked up.
Super heightened nervous, like almost like flashing back, like this shot mattered, right? And I guess the context of the historical one was a lot of times I'd be playing pool years ago and I had no money whatsoever. And so we'd play and it wasn't hustling people. Hustling means you're tricking them, pretending you don't know how to play, but you just play, you're playing. But I had to make the shot to win the game and win the money and or win enough money to pay for the share of the cost of the table. So when I was over that shot there, it like, and obviously we could afford the price of the table or anything. There was nothing on the line, but all of a sudden I just got overwhelmed. Almost like it took me back 40 years. And then all of a sudden it was like, this shot matters. I think I missed it, but nonetheless, but it was very interesting, right? But it was an interesting trip down memory lane because those were people that, I used to play snooker when I grew up, and snooker now I think you see is there's shows now where the snooker and over in England and over in Europe they're getting more internationalist, but this is the game that I was playing, and that guy there I remember actually playing him and beating him because they actually had this board that ranked you. So like for instance, if you're like a pyramid, they had number 1 on top, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you had a little chip with your name on it. And at any time you could challenge, the thing was, I could walk up to the number 1 person and play them in a best of 7, but I had to pay. I had to pay for them for that right to try to beat them. Well, you can't beat number 1. It's good. But I was on that board. It was a top 20 in this. So even at that time, I was under 18. I was the top 20. And I remember beating him, and that means his chip gets removed and my name gets on there. And so, cool. So anyways, flash forward, there he is, right? Now all an older version, and there it is. But it was a fun trip down memory lane. But yeah, that was kind of like, not so you could say, well, you played the pool years ago, yes. So but that whole thing just was heightened. It was it was a fun experience, right? Just taken back. But yeah, I don't know why your body remembers these things. You remember, that the situations you were in 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And your body takes over, and it took over that moment there. It was quite interesting.
Well, yeah, I think that's what it's with me with public speaking too. Like I remember being a little kid, like even grade 2, I remember like everyone was going around the class reading.
Yeah.
And then for some reason I didn't get picked. So I was like, yes. But then this guy says, Wes hasn't read yet. And I'm like, no,
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
to read in front of the class now, right?
Yeah.
So then that's kind of what I attribute it to too, is like, okay, well, when I look back, it's like my body's having those emotions back to it. But it's also about stacking those wins,
Yeah.
right? Like if I'm able to put myself in more of those situations, make myself uncomfortable,
Yep.
have clients come here, get a little nervous, talk to them, go through
Yeah.
that, put myself outside of my comfort zone. Like to me, that's where that's where you're getting the growth, but that's where it's also uncomfortable.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I think like if I even just look back on these last 3 months, like I was saying, I was just running the treadmill, right? If I'm always consistently doing that, I feel like I'm going to be running the treadmill. But I feel like if it like spices life up. Like, you know, it gets you engaged. It gets you like, you're thinking about that thing coming up because you know it's going to put you outside of your comfort zone. And yeah, I felt the stress in my body pick up. But then it's also allowing me to grow and do things that I'm actually like wouldn't do otherwise, and then build my confidence in myself. So when I have clients come in the future, it's probably, I'm not even going to think about it, right? It's not going to be something that's going to really push me outside of that comfort zone.
Yeah, and I think as we get wider and wider ranges and stuff, then I guess everything's relative. So I think about, we just went through Halloween, and I remember back as a kid, like, so we lived in this little old neighborhood. We were quite poor, and that's really the extent of it. So anyways, a buddy of mine says, hey, there's this dance out in Hardyville, which is like, it's not far in Lethbridge away, but it seemed like it was a separate little community, and they got a Halloween thing where you dress up and a whole bunch of kids are going to be there, and we were 12 or 13 or whatever, so I'm like, oh, I don't really have, we got no money and no costume. But so they had my parents or whatever, the family, because 9 kids, they had this stupid cat costume, and it was like, visualize this like brown nylons with this brown big tail. And so I dressed myself up as a cat, and then his parents were going to drive us, so they picked this up at the house, and we're driving to Hardyville. So I'm very heightened nervous because I don't know who these kids are and everything, but everybody's going to be there, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be dressed up. And so then we walk in, there's like 50 kids or whatever. Walk in, I don't know these kids, walk in. And my buddy had the wrong date. Nobody dressed up. So there I was in my bad cat costume. I felt like a jackass, right? But, so everything's sort of relative now. So when you think, well, this is kind of embarrassing, I think, no, that was embarrassing. So everything's kind of relative now. So what used to maybe heighten you before, maybe doesn't heighten you now. You kind of go, yeah, I've done stupid things and been in stupid situations. Like,
it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. I mean,
honestly, 2 stories come to my mind, but the one is like talking about costumes. So this was, I think, 2 Stampedes ago. Savannah dressed me up. So she had this, it was the day before we were leaving, and she was like, what, you don't have an outfit? Like, we need to get you an outfit. So then she has this old cowboy hat. At the time, I'm like, no, I'm only wearing shorts and my Nikes. It's going to be too hot. Yeah. So then she found me this like plaid shirt, and we're at the party. And then there's this guy across the room. His name's Jake. And he sees me come into the room, and he yells at me. He says, hey, Wes, you look like more like a safari guide than you do like a cowboy. And then I look in the mirror, and then I'm like, yeah, I look 100% like a safari guide right now.
You're not an authentic cowboy.
Yeah. But then, so what that led to is like, okay, a year later, I'm like, Savannah, I cannot be a safari guide this year. I'm like, let's go get me a cowboy hat. So then we went to Lamley's, bought me a cowboy hat. And Savannah has this big fur jacket that she loves. It's like, you could see it from a mile away. I think you've seen it. Yeah. And then so we just bought my cowboy hat, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. I like my cowboy hat. So then me and Savannah have to go run around Lethbridge and do errands for the rest of the day. So Savannah's in her big fur jacket, and I'm wearing my cowboy hat. And we're like at Costco, like walking around. And even just like you're saying, kind of the different costumes, you feel different. You can like notice people looking at you. I feel like we're almost like 100 years back, dressed as like cowboy royalty, walking around. And then we go into, I'm looking for a new office chair. So we go into Leon's. And then, so I'm wearing my cowboy hat. I found a chair that I like. So I'm like, okay, sweet. So I just pick this chair up and I'm like walking it over to the till. And then I see this lady, her eyes light up, and I'm like, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have picked up this chair and walked it over here. So I'm like, okay, in my head, I'm like, okay, Wes, say something funny. And I got my cowboy hat. Yeah. So then I don't know why, but I just look at her and I go, I like this chair.
So play the part.
Exactly.
And what did you do?
She just laughed and she was like, yeah, no problem. You can put that down. We'll get it figured out for you. But like, honestly, again, like getting outside of the comfort zone. Yeah. And when I look back on that, that's like a really fun memory that me and Savannah share, because we just like kind of walked around being goofy that day.
And most people have a hard time ever getting out of their comfort zone, like, to be honest with you. I think most people, I have this belief that most people are just kids at heart. So I think they like games and any kind of thing. So I've done a million different parties, things, and where games are involved. And when people can just relax and almost put down the sort of the walls that they have around them, that they have to be this or they have to be that, instead of just, we're all here just trying to move through life, like that kind of idea. So then when a little bit of laughter gets in there, I think it breaks the ice in a lot of cases, because people just, I don't think, have a lot of joy or fun in their life, and they have a lot of walls that say they can't do this, you have to act this way, you have to be this way, right? So,
and I find if you can bring that energy, then people just want to be around you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, they want to. That's what I'm saying. I think they like games, they like fun, they like anything that connects them outside of the world they're in, right? So, yeah.
I don't know if you told the story on the pod, but when we first started getting together, you told me the story about, I'm not sure what the event was. It was some sort of summer party, and you were out on a farm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should tell that story.
Yeah. So what it was again, we had this year-end. They had this. It was a company, the financial company, and they had this party that they wanted to do. And they asked the manager of the thing, said, "Hey, look, you seem to know how to entertain people, and that would you handle that out of my acreage?" And I said, "Okay, I'll handle it all." So I sort of thought in my mind, we'll put this kind of like little. And remember, the age range of people were from 19 or 20 all the way to 80. So how do you get everybody? So I thought, you know what? Why don't we do it like an Olympic theme? And so we'd have these little ones, like, so one thing would be like you take a wiffle ball and a golf club, and they had to try to hit it in. Just really simple things that everybody could do. You didn't have to be a super athlete to do it. And, but it was, they were versions off of what you would normally do. So if you put a golf ball, that changes it. But just, so all these fun little games. And then what I did was I broke them up into 3 teams and said, okay, so you're going to have to and they thought they were competing with each other. Team 1 against team 2, and they were doing this. So they were trying very hard, and I said, I'm keeping score. But I wasn't keeping score at all. It was just entertaining them. And I said, okay, I've got now we've got the final. I said, right, so inside of this thing, right? So I said, we got this final that we're going to do. And so we're going to get everybody out there. But what was interesting, even when we were competing, I'd go up to these people, and these people were really prim and proper. And I went up to her and him, and I said, I need you guys to come out and to play some of these games. And they were like dressed to the nines, like, and I thought for sure they're going to say, no, they're not going to say we're too fancy, but they're acting fancy. And then she goes, you want me, this is what she said, you want me to come and join in those games? And I said, yeah. And she goes, okay, great. And then she just ran out, and he was shocked, because that's, the youth in her came out, so of course he followed anyways. But anyways, at this wrap up, I said, okay, it's very simple. We're going to get everybody, all teams. So now visualize this, and this will be the decider. So they're kind of wondering, like, what is he scoring that? So anyways, I got him into a big circle. So let's say the circle was, like 40 feet across, and they were circling, space yourself out, so a big circle. I said, the game's quite simple, and I brought out 2 or 3 water balloons, and I put them in different positions. And I said, it's very simple. Like, you're going to pass the water, like toss the water balloon to the person beside you. And if it's a good toss and they catch it, then okay. But if it's a good toss and they drop it, then they're out. But if it's a poor toss, then you're out. Okay, so very simple. And we're going to go around till there's nobody left. And they're kind of looking, they're going, well, this is kind of a stupid, simple game. And I said, does everybody understand the game? And I said, the other thing is you can't move. You can't move your feet. So once you're here, you're locked in. If you decide to leave, then you're out. And they're going, well, why would I leave? I'm just going to stand here and pass the balloon. I said, is everybody okay? And they said, okay, ready to go? And they go, yeah. And then I brought a giant farm sprinkler, like one of those big, those pivots, those big ones. And they're going, what is that? I said, you can't move your feet or you're out, remember. And I put the pivot right in the middle and I turned it on. And it went, so anyways, it starts going. Now, here's the weird thing. They, like, some of them were dressed quite well. Like, so they were like, they could have just walked away. They could have just said, screw that. Like, but they stood there. And so pretty soon, you know, like, not realizing that some of them were wearing very elegant blouses that once wet maybe probably wasn't appropriate kind of idea. But anyways, they didn't move. They tried to win that game. There was nothing. There was no prize. There was no nothing. But it's this concept that they just wanted to have fun. And they don't have opportunities, and they don't have an environment where people all can have fun, can put down the thing and say, look, I don't have to be prim and proper. I can just live my life and have some fun. So they stood there, and then the person wins, and then they go, what do we win? I said, nothing. It's just we're just having fun. And so, but I think everybody had a really good time. But yeah, so create these stupid games, but it was all just something.
Yeah, well, that's the crazy part, because when you think of like putting yourself outside of your comfort zone, like I bet the first thing that comes to people's mind is like doing something that makes them really uncomfortable so that they can grow. But you don't think that putting yourself outside of your comfort zone is actually just like allowing yourself to have more fun than you're used to. That's
exactly it, right? You didn't have all the iPhones and everything, so it's just like get outside and play for hours on end, and that was it. And you'd create games and you'd do whatever. You'd play kick the can, you'd play all these things, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it was just a very creative energy, and you had fun, and it was fun. It was just, but now you get to this thing where people are just like when you ask, I bet you if you went up to people and said, when's the last time you had fun? So when you talk about comfort zone, when's the last time somebody had fun, right? So when
that's a good question, actually.
Yeah, well, you know, at our Christmas party, because you were there, and we said, okay, we'll do karaoke. And it's not that I expected everybody to karaoke, but it was very interesting to watch the vast majority that would fight it. They didn't want to. And it wasn't because, but what was it because? Because none of us were professional singers. So it's not because, oh, Johnny can sing better. It's just they can't get out of their way. They're worried about what other people think. They can't allow themselves to have fun, if that makes sense, right? So
yeah, it's so true, because I think about because I was thinking about that for myself, and it was like the last time was when we went to Banff. I was just being weird, like running around, jumping on the rocks, like putting my hands in the water. Like all the tourists were up by the river where the waterfall was, but we kind of went down the river and we're just like jumping around and like looking at these rocks. And for me, that was fun, but it was just because I was just like going and exploring, right? Like I went and did something that like was interesting to me. But I do find like, especially if I look at myself probably 5 years ago, like I wouldn't take action on that thing that I wanted to do, right? Because it was like, I don't know if you're talking about when you refine yourself or you constrict yourself. The other thing I think that happens a ton too is like, we're so focused on being politically correct.
That's right.
Is that we're like, I'm scared to say stuff on social media. I'm being recorded. I don't want to say these things. Everyone has these cameras. It's like, I don't want to be politically incorrect. And to me, it's like, I can understand where it's coming from, but it's hard because like a lot of your personality that comes outside of just like the social norms is outside of that box.
Yeah. No, and you're right about the cameras and everything, because that's dramatically different. And I think it's going to rob people of, and I'm not talking about, not having the cameras there so you can do things that are way offside. That's not what I'm talking about. But I think it's going to rob generations to come of this idea that they can't, they're so worried to take a step, and understandably so, because if they do something fun and then somebody tapes it and shoots it around, well, then it's like, well, I guess I better be very careful, or I have to have a super safe environment, and you
critique yourself more.
Yeah.
Because even just that speech that I gave, my business partner, Nathan, got the video of the speech before we even told him we won the award.
Right.
Which I was happy that there was people in that room, because I wanted to see it. I wanted to see myself back.
Yeah.
But like, then you're just more hypercritical of yourself and what you did in that moment.
Yeah.
And then you can either like, again, you can use it for growth and move forward. Like
Yeah.
the one thing actually I learned from like my baseball coach growing up, because I was a pitcher, he said, have a short-term memory.
Yeah.
So when you throw a ball, you walk a batter, you hit a batter,
Yeah.
it's like, forget about it, move on. You're on to the
Yeah.
next thing. So that's in my mind. It's like, okay, well, if I get caught in that and say like,
Yeah.
I've told stories. We talked about public speaking last episode of like terrible speeches that I've had in the past. It's like, we got to learn from it, and then we got to forget about it.
Yeah,
And we
for
got to
sure.
be able to move on.
Yeah, and we just came through that with the Blue Jays losing a heartbreaker there, and it was very interesting because you watch pitchers pitch, and then a home run changes obviously the complexion of the game, right? And you think, and they have to decide that, you know what, I threw it and it didn't hit the spot, or the batter just was better in that one moment, because they can't go, well, now I can't pitch. But sometimes you see that they get a little hesitant, and then they move out of their sort of range, and they play it real safe, and but they're out of the strike zone, and next thing you know, you walk.
And then you have the pitching coach on the phone warming the guy in the dugout, and they're watching to say like,
you must.
did he lose it, or is it moving on? Like, what's happening from there?
That closer, that idea of the pitcher there and being the closer in that pressure situation. But it's always interesting because some people say, well, they threw the pitch and that pitch cost us. And my view of the thing was, they had a two game 6 and 7 possibilities of winning at different various stages, especially in game 7. And it really was a team effort. And what I mean by that is sometimes we say, well, we win as a team, we lose as a team. But then they look at the one player that gave up that one home run. But the reality in this particular case, if you look at, they had 3 different pitchers give up home runs, and key pitchers for the team that got them there. Without these guys, they don't get there. Then they also had players that didn't put down bunts when they should. They, hit into double plays, all these kind of things, errors in base running, all this. So really it was a cumulative 6, 7, 8, 9 guys had an opportunity to change the game by a run, either, save a run or add a run. And then they got into that spot and then they lost. So it's very interesting from that perspective. But you're right, it's that you're under the gun, and if you can't let go of that. And I know there was years ago, and this is putting back years, there was I do believe it was an Angels pitcher, I think his name was Donnie Moore, if I remember right. But anyways, he was in this situation, I think 2 out, bottom 9th, 2 runners on, they're up by a couple runs, and he threw up a tater, and the guy hit it right out of the park. And it wasn't long after that he killed himself, actually. Couldn't deal with the fact that changed, or the pressure of it and things. So you imagine now everything they have, everybody's an analyst of the thing. So yeah, you're right. If the media makes it so that maybe now, even if we're not even bad enough of not getting out of our comfort zone, here is now another layer to say, don't you dare, because somebody might be filming it, right?
Because the event happened,
right?
And then it's not that just you have to live through the event; you have to live through then
the
all
replays.
the media, the replays
Yeah.
of everything on the
Yeah.
event.
So I just imagine that if I had the video of me and the cat boy, like,
And we had it broadcasted in your office.
I'd never
Look
leave
at this cat
yes,
guy.
I would never leave the house. So, but luckily we didn't have that then. But the memory still exists, right? But I laugh about it now. But right, so
Yeah, well, and that's the crazy part. It's like, if I threw a pitch and I gave up a home run, and I decided that I'm just never gonna pitch again, it's like, that's the kind of same thing as saying that, like, if I get out of my comfort zone,
right,
and something happens that I'm not happy with,
right,
I'm never gonna do that
yeah.
again.
But people do that though, as you know, right? They'll say, why don't you do it? And they say, well, one time 12 years ago or 20 years ago I had, and it's like, well, yeah, well, what has it got to do with today? Like, that was then, and right, and right. But they view it as a negative, so negative that it impairs it. It actually changes their path. Where we're talking about get out of your comfort zone because it'll change your path and you'll grow. But if you went and did something and it was negative, let's say you got a breakdance and they told you get the hell off the stage, and you go, well, I guess I'll never do that. But you're saying, no, that was just what it was. It was the fact that you were willing to ask and willing to go out of that thing and say, what the heck? I mean, what do I got to lose? Just do it, right? So,
and that's the crazy part, is that I found in life that people want to help you. There's actually there's an old lady that walks around our pond all the time, and whenever Savannah sees her, she always gets happy. when you walk by this old lady, her head's down, she's walking her dog, she doesn't even make eye contact with you. But Savannah always says hi to her. And then the old lady always perks up and smiles and says hi back.
Yeah.
And then Savannah said to me the one time, she was like, I think she wants to say hi, but she just isn't comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And like that's the part of it, is like to be able to bring that out of other people, but then to also like, I think other people want to say hi. I think other people want to help you more, but it's just taking that first step. Because even if I just like think of like most of the first interactions that I've had with people, probably 99% of them are positive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we tell these stories in our minds, and then we have like, especially in university was the worst, when you're walking around the school and you see another group of guys and then you're all acting macho.
Yeah.
But then if you actually go and talk to them, you're just like, you're all just get along and you're just all friends.
No, for sure.
And we just tell these stories in our mind that make these things bigger than they have to be.
Yeah.
But I find the majority of people, like, they want to help you and they want to say hi.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's that idea is that they don't want to take that first step because maybe a bad experience, maybe because they don't know what they're going to get. And especially nowadays, it seems like more and more people, maybe the unpredictability of people, but also the media and everything that we get, it paints pictures, stories of like, you know, everybody's out to get you, everybody's out to kill you, you can't walk around safe. Like, I don't believe it's that. I mean, there still is danger out there for sure. You have to be conscious. But I have this belief, and my belief I've always believed is that people don't get up in the morning wanting to kill you. Like that's my thing. That if I go, that I'm, you know, I might come across that situation. And I'm sure I've probably been close in sometimes, but really most people are just trying to make a living, take care of their family, and want a decent life and a few laughs here and there. That's what I find most people, unless it's really fringe people outside. But reality is, so the lady walking around the lake, you know, you just don't know their story in that. And yeah, a friendly hi, a friendly smile, a friendly gesture goes a million miles, right? So
yeah,
it's very
absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah, I remember seeing a picture of, I think it must have been Times Square, like it was just flooded with people, right? And it's like, we're worried about what other people think, but everyone is more focused on themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Even going to the gym. I remember in university, I went to a gym with this girl, and she was like, all of these guys with their muscles like flexing in the mirror and doing these things. It's like, and then you're worried to get deeper in the gym because there's like all these gym bros, and it's like, honestly, those guys, majority of the time, they're just looking at their own muscles flexed in the mirror. They honestly are just looking at themselves.
Yeah. And I think people think, yeah, you're right, that everybody's conscious of us and they really are spending time thinking. And I'm saying most of the time, the world doesn't give a rat's ass about you. They're doing their thing. And whether it's gym bro out in the mirror there, they're not conscious of anything else. And it's always funny because when you put yourself out, like you said, most of the time people are receptive to that. There might be occasionally there isn't, but then if there isn't, then it'd be like sometimes if you go to say, oh, hi, how you doing? And the person goes, And, you know, like, so I think, I don't know if I ever told you the story. I was flying one time to Toronto from Calgary to Toronto. I was flying and I always, like, if you're sitting there, you're going to be there for 4.5 hours, and they put somebody's beside you. And I think this was a 2-seater or whatever. And there was a young lady beside me. So I always say hi to people, like just, hey, because you never know, right? I remember one time I had like a Walkman sort of thing, and it had all these stickers, like, you know, Vans and all these, you know, these different ones like that. And there was a couple beside me, a young couple, and they were staring at, and they kept staring at the machine. And then I could tell they were staring, and then I took the things off and I said, I noticed you've been looking over lots. And they go, yeah, all those stickers, because they, you know, and that was my son. He was a real boarder at the time. So they were looking at me thinking, well, I don't know if you're the skateboarder. Are you a skateboarder? I said, my son. They go, oh, okay, that makes sense. So anyway, so I'm on this flight with this. And so I thought I'd say hi to this young lady. Say, hey, how are you doing? And she's like, and gives me that. I'm like, okay, whatever. Yep, sounds good. So, you know, I'm not one of those guys that sit there and when people put headphones on, like, talk to them. But if people strike a conversation, you can meet lots of different people, and it's very unique conversations, and I think it's very enlightening. I've always found them good. So anyways, this person obviously was not interested in having any conversation. No problem then. So it's just music, watch a movie or whatever. But then we were heading in, just about ready to land in Toronto. Well, it was serious storms. Like, and I don't, like, I'm afraid of heights, but I hate turbulence on plane, right? So I'm like, and all of a sudden start shaking, and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And then I'm in my own world, and I'm like, and it really starts to shake, right? And I'm like, oh, what's going on? And anyways, I look over at her. Well, I'm petrified. She is scared tenfold, right? The plane drops 1,000 feet. No bullshit. Drops. She jumps out of her seat. I don't know how it was even possible. And she's on top of me, on my lap and on top of me, right? And I'm like, so a minute, remember, you weren't giving me the time of day, but you're scared. And I realized I'm scared, but she's the 100-fold. So I'm like, hey, no, it's all good. Don't worry. It's just turbulence. So I'm saying the same thing that I bullshit myself. It's just turbulence, right? We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And anyways, then it gets through that because of the storms. And then she sits back in her seat. And I said, you okay? And she goes, yeah. And she's going, I said, well, we're just about landed. Once we're good. And she goes, I got to hop on another plane to Ottawa. And I'm like, I'm not getting another plane for a while. Like, but anyways, it's so funny how they, they're, nope, I'm in my own world. It's great. But then commonality brings you together, whether it's a smile, whether it's turbulence on a plane, but it just, then people just become people and just really, then they connect. And after, you know what, after she did that, like she was chatty, like nonstop. So and I think it's whether it's a safe place or not a safe place, but right?
Yeah, well, I think that's so easy to have that interaction of saying hi to someone, or someone steals your parking spot, or something happens, and then you get frustrated and you go, well, that person must be an asshole because of X, Y, and Z, and it was just that brief interaction with the person, and now we're painting these big stories in our heads of things that could be or could not be. Where I like to think about it, it's honestly just a numbers game. If you have X amount of interactions in the world, there's gonna be 2% that are negative. But then if you pull apart those 2% of negative, you don't know what's happening in her life, what we talked about. Did she just break up with her boyfriend? It's what's happening on this plane, and does she want to share it? It's you just don't know. And honestly, there's no point in even trying to dig down into it, right?
No, for sure.
It's there's 1,000 reasons why she could have made that reaction, but we paint one reason inside of our head, or 5 reasons, and then we paint them as a bad person, when honestly what you did there, I think, is a good mentality to have. And it's almost how do you share that more in the world? It's you can just move on, you know? You don't have to come up with a reason why. We could just move on.
Yeah, and to your point, there's the 10,000 people that you're going to have a conversation, 2 or 3 or 4 aren't going to be, and that's okay. And so if it's one, then it's one of the ones, right? But then the next one, it's just I've had weird, in the airport, you always have weird, different ones, right? So a lot of times in the airport, I would sit, so let's say I'm at gate 8. I don't go sit at the gate, because usually everybody wants to get on that plane quick. So I'd go sit at gate 15. There's nobody at gate 15. I'm just by myself. And I know that they'll 20 minutes before, then you better get there, and that kind of idea. But the one time I thought I'd go way the heck down this airport, and there was nobody within hundreds and hundreds of seats of me. I was by myself. Well, I'm sitting there, and this young lady comes and sits right beside me. And I'm like, I looked at the thing to say, what's the time? When's this flight? It's not for 6 hours or whatever. And I said, hey, and she goes, hey, how you doing? I said, good. And then anyway, she strikes up, she goes, she was asking about the gate, and then I said, and it was very innocent, whatever. So then, and then she must have felt comfortable because we started talking and whatever. And she was Miss Texas, actually. It was kind of weird. And so I was sitting there and talking, but she must have, the same thing, didn't like a crowd of people, felt that I was a safe place to sit by, and just wanted to strike a conversation, but didn't want 10,000 people, right? Maybe it's because she's Miss Texas and everybody sort of comes near her, and I'm just sitting there myself. I'm just so it was very interesting. But people are friendly. They want to talk. They want to do whatever. The next one's though, you say hi, and they're what? What are you talking about? What do you want? What do you It's like this, and I'm it's that energy, and it's okay, tell you what, that's good. Don't worry about it, right? So.
Yeah, and usually you can tell when you interact with someone right away if they want to or if they don't want to.
Yeah, 100%.
So then I'm also kind of changing my mindset in that, because I do take the first step to say hi to people, but I don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
But even just that interaction with Savannah, with the old lady around the pond, I'm you know what? Actually, probably most people want to say hi.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just are you going to take the first step to do it?
100%. And if everybody says, well, I'm not going to take the step, and I'm not going to, that's why you don't know your neighbors. And I know that you guys were saying that, you guys the other day, I think Savannah was saying, oh, we're going to go over to the neighbors, our next door neighbors, we became friends. Well, like, again, if you don't say hi, you don't become friends. And what I've noticed is that people that are neighbors tend over time to have more and more opportunities to say hi. And pretty soon they become friends, and then one of them moves, but they stay friends because, and where do you know that person? Well, they used to be my neighbor. And it's because we have that, the guard comes down, we have a little bit more time, and we can get connection with people. But normally the connections to people and getting out of the comfort zone isn't a standard thing. A lot of times people stay very tight and don't want to do anything, right? So
yeah, well, that's what I'm going to start asking people. Maybe I'll run the experiment this week. I'm going to ask people when's the last time they had fun. Yeah. And see if they can remember or pull out. Because honestly, and I do think that's a great conversation starter itself, because then you're bringing out the joy in someone, 100%. And then you immediately know what they care about or like what they do, and you know something about them. So
yeah, I think you and I are a lot alike in terms of the fact we always try to have fun in our lives, and some, right? Good story, good fun. Like, we play games at lunch here for a thing. We all could go our separate ways. We all could do our thing, but we get together and we play games at lunch here, and it's a way for everybody to interact, and it's fun, and so that's a highlight actually for me. It's because we always ask, hey, you gonna be around for lunch? Because nobody wants to play the game, and so to me, I think there's a lost art of having fun, right? So, but I'm gonna think, and I'm gonna challenge myself to try to really get out of the comfort zone. Like I'm gonna actually write that down and figure out when actually, and maybe it is, to your point, is maybe it's, well, that's the phase life, but maybe it isn't the phase. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me right now is saying that, you know what, you got to get more out of your comfort zone and do this stuff, right? So
it's an interesting thought experiment. And I actually, when you said the lost art of having fun, I just like, the thing that just popped into my head was like, I could see a book titled that, The Lost Art of Having Fun.
Yeah, well, I think we all need to have a little bit more fun in our lives, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I think we were talking about, even joking to me and you, is that, go down, and the stand-up comedian, we should go down and just do it. And it doesn't matter if we bomb. And a lot of the top comedians, it's kind of funny. Sometimes they'll do sets on purpose to bomb and just be up there and actually want the opposite. And they're okay for the audience to do it because that's the experience they want to create. And maybe they create it so that when they have good success over there, they can appreciate it more. But I think it would be super fun to go down and do that. Just crazy. Just go and say, let's do it. And what's the worst you're going to do? Boo us off stage? Who cares?
Yeah,
right?
And it's just amateur night. So maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the next thing that'll put you outside your comfort zone.
Maybe.
Go down to the comedy club.
Comedy club, Get tomatoes thrown at me. Right?
Yeah. I'll start rotting mine up.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Well, Daryl, you here?
You're here.
Anchors up!
Time to set sail.